Welcome to Elimishwe kwa maswala ya jamii. Tutumbuizwe sana mbalimbali, tujuze juu ya matukio ya kila pembe, wapa burudani kwa familia nzima.
Good evening. My name is Likuyani Eli. Welcome to the Boys to Men edition. Tonight, as we talk to the men in the room, starting all the way in Nairobi, Kenya, I have Mwalimu and also musician Eshuchi Lumumba. Good evening, sir. Habari ya kuwa mwanaume.
Good evening, Mr. Eli. How are you today?
I'm great. Back to school or back to boys?
A little bit of both. Let's go back to boys and then we can talk about how back to school sounds.
Definitely looking forward to having you. And I'm told the only guy who is equally in school right now is all the way in Oklahoma. Good evening, Gilbert.
Good evening, Ellie. How are you doing? I'm back where you are.
We are great. I mean, I don't know about Eshuchi, but he's equally mentioned he's doing well. So I'm hoping he's met a lot of boys, and we are going to talk as men in the den. Without forgetting James Mwathi. Jamaa amemea kipara recently, nalimwona na kofia the other day, amekuwa mubaba.
Good evening, Ellie. And everyone else, how are you?
We are fine, thank you, Jim.
Good to be here as always, Asante Ellie, with all your shenanigans.
Okay. There are no shenanigans here because the only guns we have are the ones that we are going to get from our arsenal, and I'm not talking about that team that keeps making men cry like boys. But then again, I'm told there's only one man that matters when we assemble in this sitting, and his name is the African man. He went to school, graduated, and came back a very fine man. The African man himself.
Hello. How are you doing, my guys, man? Nice to be here.
You know, I'm already laughing and tears are coming over my eyes. I can't imagine what's happening tonight. But then again, we're going to tell stories like they were, because tonight we are going from boys to men. This is a series we started the other day, What Makes a Man? And it's been amazing. We've gone through the stages of how men develop and what they go through as children. And tonight, we're going to tell stories from our own experiences, real life stories. Before we get this started, Eshuchi, you want to get us to the comment section and welcome who is watching?
Yes, sure. Molinda Salim is here with us right on time, bro. Asante sana, karibu sana. Hi to you too. We have Godwin S. Seguero, our own in-house producer. The Den is here. Yes, the Den is here. You are right. Yes. And Ben OJ MRP. Nice one. Stay tuned, Mr. Ben. It's gonna be fire in here.
Definitely. And there's that guy who is calling himself Rico Bear, KE, says hi to you, sir. Hope you're doing well. And of course, Ben, OJ, you mentioned, and Dismas Cheronges who say AE. Mazee mnapenda kushoten vitu mpaka sometimes inatushanga. You know, that almost looked like a name I know. But it's okay, fine. Gentlemen, let's go back to basics. As we talk as men, there are things that have developed us to be who we are today. And one of those is a moment that I was laughing at the other day of myself, because I got to discover I am who I am because of the kind of a woman that was in my life as a young man. And this happens to be my mother. So this is the story. And I hope you guys like listening to stories. I'm not such a good storyteller like Eshuchi, who will tell his stories, because him and literature are friends. But then again, I remember at a very young age, should have been 11 or 12 thereabouts. And this one fine afternoon, my mom asked me to go to the posho mill. For those who come from my village or areas close to my village, you will tell the posho mill was supposed to be a ladies' thing. But unfortunately, in my family, we didn't have the luxury of having a lot of ladies in the house. So it was literally a man's den. What a coincidence. So what happened is this afternoon I went to the posho mill, and then they became cloudy. I mean, it was cloudy, and the linguistic people like Mr. Mubaba, aka James Mwathi, will say it rained cats and dogs. So I was waiting for almost 2, 3, 4 hours, and it was really pouring heavy rain. And then I slept into a slumber. Ninajikonsole hapo at 11 or 12 years old thereabout, and I'm wondering, how am I supposed to go home and it's getting this dark? And finally, somebody comes, taps me on the shoulder. And unajibugua kutoka usingizini, only to turn and I realize that was my mom right there. And you know what my mom had in her hands? She had a warm jacket, a rain jacket, gumboots, and an umbrella. And my mom, asked me, umemaliza kusaga unga, like a mom would. I say, yes, mommy, I've been waiting because it's been raining too heavy. Okay, let's go home. And it was a bit dark. She had some spotlight that she was walking with in the middle of the forest, because there's a tiny street forest we had to go through, and then through the river, and then go home. And I remember getting to the river bank. Okay, it was rather a stream. My mom picked me up onto her back, and we crossed the river. And since then, this is a memory I've never forgotten. So I hear a lot of ladies who call their husbands or partners mothers as witches. If you ever tell me my mom is one, I'll wonder, because since then I realized the importance of a woman in the society that a man exists in. And when you call about respect, I learned to respect that woman that day. That is a short, long story of my childhood memory. I don't know about you guys.
I have a question, Eli, but
Very good one.
were you sleeping in a kisiagi? Were you sleeping in a kisiagi with all that noise?
I know it sounds funny, but yeah, rains have a way of making you get into sleep, especially if you
Hiyo kisiagi yenu, I doubt kama ni ya Uluyani, because in Uluyani, I'm assuming your village would equate to mine, and you see, growing up, the electrification was not so penetrative. So the kisiagis that existed back then zilikuwa zile za mafuta, the diesel ones. Unajua ya stima huwa inawaka, and then over time it traces, and then it becomes gentle in sound. But ile ya mafuta inapiganga to the end. You see, Matasyo is laughing because
I know it exactly.
the whole time. So I'm imagining someone sleeping in that environment. I think maisha ilikuwa imefika. I get you.
I don't know if I should respond or not, but truth be told, my favorite sport, apart from eating, when I have free time, is sleeping. And I had free time, so clearly I took advantage of it, and it worked very well.
Ni wale mnalala hata kama kuna bullfight nje, nyinyi mnalala tu.
No, I'm the kind of guy you take to a movie or disco matanga, and I'm actually sleeping. For those who have attended disco matanga stuff.
Ellie, again,
Yes.
with I know we will give our stories, but just to follow up on your story, and I'm here thinking, and probably this is because of my training. Apart from respecting your mom, what did this experience, how did it shape you to become the person you are today? When you think back from that experience, what are the lessons that you can pick about life in general?
The greatest lesson I actually picked out from this experience is, I think I will talk in terms of character. Character-wise, my mom taught me something called being responsible. And no situation should stop you from reaching your goals. It shouldn't limit you, because she had a choice of staying home and say, I'm a woman, I wouldn't go through this dark, forested area to go get to this young man that is supposed to take care of himself. And that, for me, it's something that I've grown with to date. I happen to come from a family of, sometimes it gives me trouble counting, actually. we are 8 in my,
Just
we
say
are 9
many.
in my family. We are many. We are 9 in my family, and I happen to be the 4th born. And throughout, I believe I've learned taking charge before somebody else does it for me. And if I was to compare what I learned through that process and that experience as it was, I can say to date, most of the things I do, I give greatness to that old lady.
Thank you. Just from your story, so many things I can pick out. Because number one, and I don't expect you to answer, but it's for the sake of our viewers. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to show how our childhood experiences shape the people who we are. So you've picked all these lessons from your mom. And in my mind, I'm imagining, so in your mind, lady, I wanted to use the name woman. I don't know if it is, if I'll get some fireworks, but you've grown up believing that a woman should be responsible, should be, accountable and all that. And that is an expectation that you have developed over time. Now, as a man, flip that, yeah, and you come across in your adulthood, you come across a woman who is the direct opposite. What would it do to your mind? What would it do? And I'm bringing this up because of what we see every day. Yeah, remember in our previous shows, including season 1, we kept on asking, why did this man behave this way? Why he was brought up well? What caused this? Yeah, so that is point number 1, and I'll leave it hanging. I don't expect an answer. But then my point number 2, and it comes solely because you mentioned that you're the 4th born, and it triggered something in my mind. In psychology, and this is the last I'll talk about psychology. I know Makomere will kill me. But in psychology, when we are studying behavior, there is something called birth placement. And you'll find that birth placement is classified or is looked at in sequences of 3. So there's the firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn. The 4th born always plays or assumes the role of the firstborn, and then the cycle repeats. Yeah. So when you've said you're the firstborn, but you've learned to take charge and to do all that, in my mind, I saw a firstborn, which only, again, speaks towards that theory of birth placement. So that Makomere does not tell me that I've started doing lectures, let's hear his story.
Yeah. For me, I believe as a kid, when I was growing up, now that I stopped growing up, I think I'm developing. James, am I developing or growing up?
I wanted to ask a question on that, but I will not.
Let me assume that. I believe the experiences I've gathered as a kid have shaped me to be who I am currently. I remember in primary school, my teacher identified something in me My teacher believed I'm a leader. And all the time, I was like a prefect from class 1. And there's something that that gave me confidence from young age. That was inculcated in me when I was young. To this level, I believe that was built in me to be where I am. The confidence that was built in me when I was still in primary school, it has gone up to high school, up the university, and I'm still using it as a professional where I am. I will always take a chance to want to lead others. Whenever there is called for someone to volunteer and show others direction, I think the experiences have built me to be that man who never shies away from position of leadership. Because I just find myself wanting to lead. I will not sit down and watch things going wrong. Because this is something that has been in me, was taught, was put in me when I was young. I don't know what about you, Matasyo.
I think you that was a cue to ask Matasyo to go for his remedial lessons because he might have forgotten. You scared him. But that's an interesting one, and we can see that things are being built from all the way down. And for those that are joining us, you might be wondering what we are doing tonight. We're trying to connect how these things that happened in our childhood affect the kind of man you end up being with. And in case you're joining us, the topic tonight is from boys to men. Let me also ask you, you want to share your story with us, feel free to do so in the comment section. And I see Victor Owiti is there watching with us. Hey, Nori leo umekuja na ubaya. Teach Winnie, hello to you. Edel Kweyu says she's tuned in. And we have Stella Kazonele who says, impressive, keep up the good work. Thank you so much. We have Asha Amoro who says a good one. And of course, every other one that is there, karibuni sana. Kuna mtu anaitwa M-Pesa Sako. Tutumie huko. Tuko nafuliza. Well, that's a story for another day. Guys, let's just take a quick one and see what happened in the ladies' corner the other week that most of us might be victims of. Let's take a look.
Why do you think women always go back? Why do you think she has that audacity to be like, I was beaten, I've gone through this, but I love this guy and I'm going back? Why do you think that happens?
So you'll not come and beat me right now. I have my own job, I have my own money. So if you beat me now and I have children with you, I'll go with them, I'll take them to school, I take care of them, watamaliza shule, nitawajengea nyumba, like, you know.
Mimi, by the way, this is something I believe in. I have kids with you, you're gonna take care of the kids. Teach your daughters to leave when the relationship stops working. If it's when they start being beaten, teach them to come back home. There's nothing wrong with coming back home if it is not working. Nyanduko, would you go for, is it a priority for you to look for a man who is faithful? Like, is this something you really look for? A man who is faithful?
Yes. Of course, everyone wants a faithful partner. You don't want to be walking around here and everyone is saying, we share. Ati mwanaume ni wa kushare. Unapo peke yako ni kaburi. Did you see that one? Did you see that one going viral somewhere? Sometime last month? So yeah, everyone wants a faithful man, of course.
Well, I don't know how many of you are the kind of man these ladies are looking for, but we'll be finding out. Eshuchi.
Yes.
Everyone wants that kind of man you can look up to, and that's why we are being informed as we graduating from boys to men. What is this outstanding story you believe shaped the kind of man you are today?
I honestly can't put a finger to one particular story. I tell people all the time that my childhood and growing is an entire series. I can do an 8-season series of about 20 episodes per season. just highlight it. But basically, like most of you, depending on the stories I've had, I'm a very reflective person, and it's very easy for me to marry the occurrences that I have in my life and that was included in my growing up. I was not particularly, I was not your typical law-abiding child, and I think maybe it shows, and I don't know.
It shows because you're frozen.
Grow up and unaanza kujiuliza, hey, ama mimi tu ni mtoto mbaya. Yeah, but then over.
I don't know what is happening to Eshuchi and Matasyo. These guys are just doing some strange stuff there, but I will be going back to him.
They're trying to.
I think you're scaring them.
Am I?
Yeah. So, Ellie, as I was saying, from the episodes we've been learning about this series of what makes a man. This journey we walk when we are boys, when we move now to be men, because you realize this is the stage where we are required to make decisions. Decisions are not now made by us. When you are boys, we are led into these experiences of getting decision made by our parents or our family members. But now we are moving to this stage where you are making decisions based on the experiences. You've gone through the experience. You've seen your mom making decisions, your dad making decisions. You've gone through experiences that have shaped you now to be able to get in the world and now be the man that has been taught behind here. So today, for me, I would want to know from you guys, that particular thing you think taught you something, informed you. It might be positive or negative. We don't need to dwell particularly on a positive thing. It might be a negative thing, an experience that you look back now and you're like, man, I think this experience, this cycle of life is what made me who I am. Either positive or negative, because we won't judge you, James. Do you think
actually, it is too early to ask James to be judged, because James has become Mubaba, and before we talk to him, because he's listening to the rest of us, Eshuchi did a pilot of episode 1 of his series. So can you do now the real stuff?
I don't know how I disappeared on you guys. It sounds so okay on my side. But well, so what I wanted to say, I'm glad Gilbert has given us a leeway to dwell on whether positive or negative. A lot of my experiences and a lot of things that turned well in me were actually orchestrated by, let me say, negative occurrences, but I learned to call them motivation. James always reminds us to have a better word for everything. So I had two parents who are very opposed on parenting. For example, my dad would find a lot of trouble with me if he found me in the kitchen, because alikuwa ananiambia, yes, I don't want to see you in the kitchen. You see, achana jikoni kwa ya wanawake. That's actually how my dad viewed things, yeah? And so, and my mother didn't have any other child. I'm a firstborn, actually. Unlike Ellie, I am a firstborn. And I was a firstborn to very young parents, very, very young parents. So my mom would tell me, listen, hakuna mtoto mwingine kwa hii nyumba. Hiyo maji ni wewe utasomba, hizo kuni ni wewe utasanya, chakula ni wewe utapika. So I would be bombarded because dad would say this here, mom would say this here. But I don't remember one particular time when they both actually agreed to agree and say, let the boy not do this or that. So dad would be away most of the time, and when he's away, mom would take over. Do this. Then dad would come, and there's a lot of work that is undone. So I think this conflict didn't leave me a choice. And sometimes I look at how handy I can get, and I think it's as a result of that. because I really got handy. Now, on a flip side of it, my dad, I usually owe this to my dad. My old man is a very handy person. And I remember one time there was a broken stool in the house, and it's the stool that I used to sit on. Unajua, in our traditional homes, everybody had a spot. You don't just go and jump on a couch somewhere. Buddha alikuwa na kiti yake pale, Masa akona kiti yake pale. So my stool broke, and now that day I was in I think standard 6 or 7. I took the furniture and I was taking it to a fundi, and then I met my dad coming from Juakali yake hapo kwa barabara kwa mto. Actually, he's like, unapeleka wapi stool? Nikamwambia kwa fundi. This guy kenned me bana, ananiuliza umefikiria kila kitu unaweza fanya kufix this stool ukashindwa, ukasema upeleke kwa fundi, unaona? So and he was, you know, he had his hands on a lot of things. My dad would you know, if the car is not too broken, he would fix it. If, you know, these little things, furniture, metals and all that. And now since that day, my dad made me believe that unless it's life and death, unless you're doing a heart transplant, you don't need a fundi for anything. So I really turned out on that. And I think it turned well, because I see it these days. And sometimes I try to step back, not to be like him, because mimi ni mara nyingi sana muangalia mtu na mjudge na jiuliza, oh, hiyo kitu kabisa huwezi fanya. Juzi nilikutana na a couple, a man and I think his girlfriend, and they were going to a tailor. Ndo tailor aweke button kwa shati ya jamaa. Button, yani kuweka sindano hivi kwa, you know, and then I think it just got me back. I was like, if I was my dad, I would hoop these people. So I think that is how I am. I took a lot from his way of parenting. I usually tell him up to now, and even if he's watching, he knows this is not wrong. I usually tell him I don't agree with how he parented me, because he was a bit too stiff on things he wanted, and perhaps I turned out the way I am like this because there are things that I've had to learn. For example, I grew up with a perfectionist father. You know, that guy would never compliment you. You do your best and you think today I have it. Hawezi. Afadhali umnyonge. You will not. So for me, things like complimenting were not things I would give easily, because I didn't think they were normal. Until later on, I started realizing, kuna mtu compliment bana relationship inaisha. You know, you meet someone in life and then you think this is normal, a normal fit, because to you this is normal, and to them, bana, that's a great fit. Manze, me my story as I tell paka kesho, but basically that's about it.
Oh, I like the perfection side of your paps. Because to those words, we see what you do as a creative, and clearly you have an eye to every kind of detail that comes around. Mubaba, it's your time. Unaona kuna chai. You're not for no reason.
Where are you guys getting these names from? Anyway, I don't know. I think like Eshuchi, if I was to give my story, do you have 3 hours? Because it would take a minimum of 3 hours.
You see, a good conclusion that wewe ni Mubaba. Your story is that big.
But anyway, just the brief of it. I grew up with authoritarian parents. Yeah. Right was right, wrong was wrong. There was no gray area on it. Unlike most families where I hear the mom is softer or the father is, you know, as you would be beaten by mother, you shut up, because if you talk about it and my paps learns about it, hiongeza the kiboko. So it was that strict in my family. And then I'm the firstborn, yeah. So again, that comes with its own expectations. Generally, it was a very loving family, but with a lot of expectations on the kids. Yeah, you needed to score 100% in maths. You needed to score, you needed to be number one. You needed to I remember watching TV, and when you hear your old man is coming, you zoom it quickly and pretend you're reading. From way young, I went to boarding school in class 3. So I was 8 years old when I went to boarding school. And when I was thinking about this show today and our experiences, I laughed alone, because our school motto was, in understanding, be men. So you can imagine you're telling an 8-year-old man, forget about everything, an 8-year-old child, forget about everything. In understanding, be a man. My father was big on education. So that was the yardstick. You had to perform. Like Eshuchi, I think later on in life, I had that chance to just sit with him and tell him I think this was not the best. But like every other parents, and I say this with a lot of caution, because I see a lot of parents who are lost, I usually tell parents, you do what you know best. No parent goes out of their way to set up their child for failure. And there's no parenting manual. So every parent, whichever style they pick, they think this is what works best. If I may tie with our topic, the previous 2 shows, that around that age when I went to boarding school, that is the age when you are at home, you are inculcating the family values and the family norms and beliefs and all that. Then you're sent into this mixture of values and everything. So you get confused. Not everybody, but some get confused. What this led to is I had a very dysfunctional teenagehood and early adulthood. I had a very, very, very dysfunctional teenagehood. And that's why I'm saying if we were to go into details, we would need 3 hours. But my confidence was extremely low. My self-esteem was extremely low. I had no coping mechanisms because of that early childhood experiences. So my early adulthood was quite problematic. I am a product of a lot of therapy. I tell people this and they can't believe. But for me to be able to do what I do and talk to people and all that, I am a product of a lot of therapy. So you can see that I actually believe that therapy works, because
You are the horse's mouth.
Me 12, 15 years ago is not the same person I am today. Yeah. So there's a lot, and if we, as the show goes, probably we'll dive back in and out, depending on what stage we are talking about. But with all the intentions, and this I'm saying for the purposes of our viewers. As a parent, you might have all the right intentions for your child. You might give them what you think is best for them, but actually it might not always turn out that way. Yeah. But then again, there's always hope. There's always hope. It doesn't matter. Again, remember, if I can go back, and you'll forgive me, because I think I'm shaped a lot by my training. So I keep on weaving in and out. If you remember, and our viewers remember what we said about the theory that we are looking at, Erik Erikson, we said how successfully you resolve one stage or one crisis informs how you go on to the next. So if, for example, you have low confidence in your childhood, then the subsequent stages only become harder. Yeah. So it is very easy, if there is no adult who is able to note quickly, it's very easy to make a series of blunders that keep on piling. And one day people wake up and wonder, okay, what just happened with this guy? Because he had the best parents, he had a good lifestyle, good schools, but they don't match. Let me rudishia mkurugenzi pale, Mr. Eshuchi, because I can see, I think he's wondering. Yeah.
Thank you very much, James. I think it's really insightful, and I must say, as the men's den, we are always really lucky to have you around, because it's very easy to get these connectives here. You know, we can tell tales all night, but eventually it's James who gets to weave all these around. Like, we have all the stories, and like, we know our childhood and how it just comes along and affects us. And I think even as we try to tackle this topic of what being a man entails, one thing that is clear with the both of us, because we have a lot of side, this is to our viewers, we have a lot of side chats here and there. And one thing that we've come to appreciate about ourselves is we don't just tell you what being a man entails. We don't just give you views on what it is. We also tell you things that we experience. So we are also very self-critical about things that happen. And that's why occasionally I'm able to bring out my story and say, you know what, this happened to me, and I can understand why this then resulted to that. So another aspect that perhaps we should also remember as people is, don't just be someone who thinks that everything you say is for the listener. Sometimes talk to yourself and understand, I am this. Why am I behaving like this? Take a moment every once in a while and ask yourself, people seem to be complaining about me behaving this way. Is it normal? Are they just being a little too hard on me? Or is there something that attaches this to my upbringing? And if it's a variable that you can work around, then find a way to work around it. Like I've told you, one of my biggest problems in life has always been, you know, the perfectionism part. It's something I've really learned, and it really took my mom. And I think we all received therapy at one point in life, James, even if not by a professional, because I remember one day my late mother told me, not everybody was raised like you. So you can't always look at everybody out there and imagine, you know what, wewe ukoje, kwani wewe unakuangaje? You can't make your bed after you wake up in the morning. You know, things like those. Like, how are you sleeping with dirty dishes? I say, cool down. When you meet people, you accommodate them because they come on different virtues. And they come from different backgrounds, and they come with different shapes. So it's a question then of compromise. I think I'll take this back to Ellie. He seems to be itching with a moment to contribute. Gilbert has also been silent in a bit, but I think what I just saw to contribute.
No, you see, when we talk about adulting, there are a lot of aspects that come into it. And clearly the two of you have shown us that our stories are just but a drop in the ocean. But then again, everybody that is joining us, this is the Men's Den. Susie Love, Susie, welcome to the Men's Den. Norina Mbata, Nyanduko 254, MC Kolao, KE, karibu sana. And let's do this, gentlemen. We are going to take a very quick break, and remembering that September from the 5th to 11th is the month of suicide prevention awareness period. And a lot of young people are going through stuff, and Simple did it for us.
Everyone tells you to watch out for the following signs and symptoms which might indicate that you are a mental health patient. Everyone gives you a clinical approach on how to tackle your mental health problems. But me, I'm no expert. I'm just an artistic soul with a simple life and a simple approach on how to stay sane in a world designed to drive you insane. Simple, the EP. Enjoy.
And yes, welcome back. That is Simple by one and only Saumu Kombo. Go to YouTube and get a look at what work she is doing, addressing matters mental health, where James falls in squarely. Jemo, we have talked about the experiences, and there's one experience that every child out there will always talk about: the way they were not just corrected, but punished. When we talk about punishment, a lot of people will say to me that is not the correct wording, but do you believe ile kichapo tulikuwa tunachapwa ya umbwa ilitusaidia ama inaharibu mtu? Because you'll find some young people, young men, have a problem getting corrected, or the mention of punishment makes them pee in their pants.
Oh boy, Ellie, you ask a difficult question. a lot of dynamics come into play when I think about correction. Forget about the word punishment. It's correction. A lot of dynamics come into mind.
Eshuchi, what's the problem? Before we talk dynamics, before we get to the opinion.
Maybe sitawadanganya. I have to come in. I don't understand the way I can interchange these words when I'm thinking about my parents. Acha niwaambie a quick one. One day, you guys know wasps, right? Zile zinakanga kama nyuki. So one day I was on top of a very tall mango tree. And nilikuwa nimeenda niona embe fulani mbivu kule juu. Sasa I scaled the tree I was trying to get. Kumbe there was these house of wasps hapo hivyo, a nest. So one hit me. Nikavumilia kimwanaume, nikashika branch, nikasema acha because I was really up there. Then kwa hiyo uvumilivu ingine ikanichapa. Then ya tatu, I could not bear the pain. What did I do? I let go the branch and fell down. Kumbe mamangu alikuwa ananitafuta huko nyumbani. She had sent me somewhere and I'd gone to take a mango instead. Kuanguka chini, kumbe Masa ndo huyo bana. Kumbe amenipata hapo, amebeba fito inatoshana hivi. Whether you believe it or not, I had dislocated my shoulder during the fall and bruised it. This mama akaniweka hapo mafimbo zake kadhaa for wasting his time. I was in pain and she could see it. So if you want to call that correction, alafu Jemo sikupelekwa osi, nilipona tu hivyo kimungu. Yani people just look at you like you're okay. You wake up in the morning, you're walking like this. People don't care. Yeah. Okay, but well. Acha tuseme correction basi.
No. You've captured what I was saying. Dynamics have changed. Yeah. You see, what I was saying is the way we were treated during that time, it was acceptable. Okay. So if during that time, if you went and told another child your experience, they would have told you, ata mimi juzi, sijui I did what, and it's around the same experience that I got. You understand? So during that period, or in that era, that was the acceptable means of correcting behavior. Because again, remember, the aim, the ultimate aim of any correction is to inculcate in the child that any choice you make has a consequence. You make a negative choice, it will have negative consequences. So that was that period. Now transfer that punishment, to use your word, to today. You have a child and you met the same kind of punishment to them, my friend, you'll be jailed. Because we have as a society, our way of doing things has changed. The ultimate aim, like I've said, is always to show that negative choices will have negative consequences. I have a problem because I also come from the old school, so I struggle between this thing that these two people who are up here call punishment, which is telling them sit in the naughty corner or do that concept. I am not sure whether it would work yet in our African setting, because I always imagine as long as there is no pain, what is the deterrent for bad behavior? And pain is relative. Pain doesn't have to be physical. But as long as there is no pain, I do not feel. I fight with my son at times, and I take away his phone, and I'm thinking, is this enough? Because
you take away the phone or your phone.
His phone. Oh, okay.
Sorry, Gilbert. This guy continued taking his phone from his son and claiming that he's taken away the phone. Gilbert.
But you see, wait, Ellie, yes. Ellie, let me just finish this. You see, okay. for them, that generation, having a phone is a big thing, is a big deal. So you're taking away the phone, Atalia, because you've taken the phone, he will actually cry. And what have you put in the phone? YouTube Kids is just watching cartoons, and there is a TV in the house. But having this is mine, this is a phone that belongs to me, that ownership. Yeah. So taking it away becomes a big problem for him. Probably in the next 20 years, he'll be telling his age mates, can you imagine my dad took away my phone? And it will be a big issue as Eshuchi is beating with a dislocated shoulder.
Okay, great.
But you are
a great one. Gilbert, I just want to get your perspective. Yes. Go ahead.
Ellie, today you see I'm relaxed. I don't want to talk much because this might be a therapy session for James and Eshuchi. And we just want to give them a platform. Maybe they have never gotten a chance to express their experiences.
Yes.
So for me, I will sit back and listen. But to cap on what James has said, there is a line between correction and punishment. And you see, if a parent does not know the meaning of the two, they are bound to find themselves in either. Because when we were kids, what our parents were doing was essentially punishing us, not correcting us. Because you can punish and not correct, but you can correct
just a
without
question.
punishing.
One question, Gilbert.
Yes.
You believe they were punishing, but according to who? According to you now. I would want to go back to your folks and ask them, when you're doing this, were you correcting or were you punishing? Because you see, there is a difference in perspectives. And that's why I put a caveat somewhere and I said, no parent will intentionally go out of their way to harm their child. Whatever action they are taking with the best of intentions. They might not know the best way, but it is the best intentions. Yes,
I think James, let me agree to disagree with you on this a bit. Perhaps I want to look at it with the end goal in mind to help me understand this properly. I believe, like Gilbert is saying, I still believe it was punishment. My query is, was it punishment with the aim to correct or punishment with the aim to hurt? Inflict pain. There's that. And then I also think our parents, just the way James is putting it, there was generational difference. And that also meant that parents could easily express their emotions through you. Like if they're really angry at things and you happen to cross their lines, that could be, that really could be that. And the reason I find very little space. I've made peace with a lot of it. Gilbert is saying I'm on therapy. I write a lot about my childhood experiences. Ellie can attest to that. It's because right now I talk to my parents all the time, and we would laugh about some of these things. And the reason why I think maybe much as they thought that was the better way to administer this punishment, you want to dig it and remind people that perhaps it is not the better way. I would say this because of one particular instance. In 1997, I was a very young boy. I don't know if you people remember the El Nino, the great El Nino that really came. Yeah. So I was in the village and we used to go grazing. That was the duty of boys. You help the mothers in the morning, then ikifika saa 5 mnafungua ng'ombe mnaenda kuchunga. Now we are the people who used to do the dufumpararo, the real one. Acha hii watoto wanafanya huku na maji inafika huku. So we would go swimming in serious rivers. And the swimming, of course it was illegal. You'd be canned when you get back home. Of course tungerudi nyumbani kichwa uso imekauka, but you say you are not in water, your eyes are red, but you deny to death. You'd be beaten and all that. So on this particular day, yes, yeah. So Mr. James, on this particular day, in our region, in our cross region, it didn't rain. It rained on the uplands. Tulikuwa tunakuita umasaini, on the uplands. So when it rains, huko the water really comes. Sasa si tukaenda kuchunga as usual, and then what is the first thing to do? usually would go swimming once ng'ombe zishashiba. Now it's like pastime, ndio mgoje jua iende mrudishe ng'ombe nyumbani. So tumenini, the first thing, strip ourselves in the water, nika dive. So when I dove, I dived in.
Dove.
I got when I dove or dived, I got into the wrong section of the river. And then manze, I drowned. I drowned badly. You see, when people say someone drowned, if you want to know how that person felt, you come to me. I can tell you how it feels to drown, because I literally drowned, and then I was nilisaidiwa na some elder cousins of mine when you wanifuata mto, on the side sasa, mpaka wakanipata nikiingia sasa lake, that river of ours used to connect into the lake. That's where I was rescued from. And the traumatizing part of this story was that we could not share it. We could not tell it at home. Like it became our little secret, and I was hydrophobic for the longest time in my life. So can you imagine, James? Una imagine bana, hata kama ni nini mzazi anafanya bana, paka uwezi sema vitu kama hizi. I only talked about it the other day.
Eshuchi. Interesting one, and it makes a lot of sense what you're talking about, because sometimes we wonder why children will withhold some information from us, but it's the fear of the consequence that comes with it. So we are trying to understand, to what level will a kid actually have so much chain of lies and withhold of information? But do we ever reverse back and ask as parents, how do I contribute to this child's current behavior? And then we expect this man to be different in the society. I have the African man who has been on standby listening in keenly. I hope I can invite him. But even as we come back with the African man, most of you, if not all of you, have seen the recent information and the news going around of a young man that was seriously slashed because he was found in the wrong bed. Was that punishment? Was that hasira? And was the problem resolved? Or has it now become a problem of society and how we deal with issues? We'll be right back in a moment. Yes, and we're back. The African man is there. I believe he has a lot of information. African man, kijana alipatikana kwa nyumba na kitanda kinahitajiki kuwa ndani. What's your take
I
on
have
that?
listened. Yeah, you see, the only thing is like badly brought up. Summary is badly brought up. You see, we have talked about those small things that teach us who we are as men. For example, I'll give this example when it comes to how young boys relate with the women around them. You must have learned already at a very young age, who is your sister? How do you relate to your sister? Who is your auntie? How do you relate to your auntie? Who is your sister-in-law? Who is somebody's wife? All that. So if that one has not been created well in the society, and I'll mention, you find this is just like the nail in the coffin when such a thing happened. Because it's not the first time that child did that. It is not the first time it's happening in the community. People must have seen. So all the red flags have been crossed to that moment. So it brings me back, my comment is, as we go back to the story of today from boys to men, some of the first flags people have to know is when it comes to young men and relating to any female in the neighborhood, all those red flags should be very sharp. You try something with your sister, a very clear stern warning. Somebody is in law. So the reason that comes is when the society morality drops so much, not in the sense that parents, families are busy with other things, the children lose guidance. For Kenya, I can tell you, to be honest, it is one of the most, I can be honest, in schools, young people, when I see what young kids now of the age of 16, 17, 18 are doing, and what we were doing when we were in school, which is not so long ago, 25 plus years, there is a very big difference in morality. Very big. So we can ask ourselves where the question is coming from, but you know, we are loosening the red flags one by one, until a boy leaves high school or secondary school and goes into somebody's wife. No, then the morality has gone so low. So for me, I think that is something very important. And I go back to summarize with the 3 patterns I gave before. When the children are growing up, there is the 0 to 4 ages of bonding, there is the imitating, and there is the being opinionated. When a child has been loved so well, already the bonding between other females has become in a relationship, or a mother, or an auntie, or a sister, or what. So the kids, when they're small, they already know that. Then the one of imitating. Now, this kid, he knows he's not the first boy to go into somebody's wife. He's imitating the community, and it must have even happened in a generation before. So that imitating part has also plays a very big role. And now they are opinionated. He can tell you his mind, okay, yeah, I can have somebody's wife, because I can also be in South Africa, they are even having women with 2 wives. That's another opinion. He can challenge you, why not? If there's doing in South Africa, it's only going to happen in Kenya. So those stages come back to it. So in the bonding, there must be the clear love of what kind of women are in a young man's community. In the imitating development is, what are the likely things this young boy will imitate? What do the older brothers do? It doesn't, but the idea of imitating, doing because of how other people do it. And then when they get their own opinion, they justify those belief systems they have built from the culture around them. So I've listened to all the stories, and you see how early you have also built your belief system of the respect and enormous love for your mother, because it happened in this situation that you are very vulnerable. It may have been even your sister, to be, if I don't want to talk in terms of psychology, I say it may have been your sister, but those things build. So in that community, as we raise as young men, your mother played a very important role, you at that vulnerable point. And so for me, and when I also connect on in relationship to what we discussed about, is it punishment of correcting? Now, this boy who has ended up with such a very big punishment of being even mob justice, maybe he never had a simple punishment of doing a small thing before. So also it comes, a lot of our parents right now, we sometimes feel guilty when we really have to discipline a child, because we look at it as a punishment. And sometimes because of the love, we also get confused. So that one also, it is something that as we also grow up men, we also relate to it. What did punishment mean to me? My story would have been the one I left. I went to the market and spoiled the money to do shopping, trying to play patapotea. So I realized half the shopping was gone. My friend, I was told to sit in the corner. I watch as they eat.
That is typical you, African man.
Another one apart from me. So
why am I not surprised?
That's a typical African man. You know what? Allow me to read Edel Kweyu's, because we're really out of time. Allow me to read Edel Kweyu's statement and contribution to this cast tonight. It's a lengthy one, so some of you might be covered in your faces. Don't mind them. It's not because you did anything wrong. It's just that the text needs to be read. Edel says, Mimi, I'm an old school parent. At 8 years, my son had this behavior of back answering me. So one day he shouted at the house help, kumchapa. He started telling me, "Mbu mami." That's child abuse. At Mbu mami. Okay, that's a lawyer in the intonation.
Ellie, take a back seat. Take a back seat. Let me read this comment. I feel
your comment is like a term. Your comment is like
he comment. Ellie's not giving you justice. Me, I'm an old school parent. At 8 years, my son had this behavior of back answering. Yani kunijibu. Unaongea mtoto anaongea. Unasema hii mtoto anasema hii. back answering me. So one day he shouted at the house help. Kumchapa, he started telling me, Mbu, ma'am, this is child abuse. Nilimchukua na nikamuingiza kwa boot hadi police station. This is something my mom would do, I swear. For boot mpaka police station. I told those police guys not to harm him, but wamshtue tu yani. Yeah. So when I went back home for him in the evening, the boy jumped on me apologizing, anapiga magoti, mami, I'm sorry, blah blah blah. Since that day, my son is the priest of my home. My home na yeye ndo disciplinarian. Mnasikia? Huyu ni dada ya mama yangu huyu.
Can I just respond? Quick response because of time. Can I just one point? Different different children will respond differently to such correction, quote unquote. Yeah. Now, I am happy that her child responded positively and went on to develop good behavior. But this is where, as a parent, you should know your child, because not all children are the same. There is another child who will develop fear. You do such a thing and they develop fear and they withdraw inwards, such that now they are afraid of making mistakes. Again, back to where we were talking about industry versus, you remember? About shame and all that. So you might met such punishment to a child and you inculcate fear and they lack the initiative. They never try for the fear of such punishment. So it's a very tricky balancing act. And I think the way forward is you should learn your child as an individual first to be able to know what kind of punishment can they take or not take. So it's not one fits all kind of thing. Yeah.
If I may react shortly in an opposite direction, that is where the very thin line is. Because first of all, let's compare love and fear. If you're a loving parent, it will take so much for you to do to instill fear in your child. Because you are not going to be scolding your child the whole time. They may be scared, they may be afraid, but it is not this traumatic fear. Because fear will always be there. There'll even be fear of opening the door. But I just want to look at it from the opposite side. When we do not know the thin line between especially punishing and correcting, in the story when she says, and tell the police not to harm them, that is a very good one. A very short one I saw on social media when the child called the police for the mother, and because the mother was abusing him, and the police came listen to the story. The child was just using these terms we get now. Oh, child abuse, you cannot do that, you cannot send me down. The policeman took the belt and gave the mother and told the mother, give her 6 of them. An American one. Punish her and told her, never talk to your mother like that. Red flag. When can a child say what? Because when the child is talking, oh, that's abuse, it's really having a big mouth. And that's the beginning of not teachers, the beginning of not.
Hey.
We should know when you have to talk African man, and at this level you cannot talk because you have to punish you with 6 of them. How can you come with no internet here? Na uko majuu. Anyway, James Mwathi all the way in Nairobi, Kenya, thank you so much for making time tonight. And of course, Mr. Therapist himself, who has been listening to these men's problems, because next week he will be telling us, Ellie, the 75% of your environment determine the kind of man you become. That is Gilbert Makomere all the way in Oklahoma. And Mr. Smooth Lines, Mr. Lyrics, Mr. Miraba Minne, all the way in Nairobi, Kenya again, Eshuchi Lumumba. It's always a pleasure having you. And the African man who finally has paid his phone bill and is decided to reappear just like he appears like traffic light. Asante sana for making time again. We will be taking on this next week. And gentlemen, for most of you, if not all of you, your dads meant a lot in that house. Like Eshuchi said there used to be different seats for different persons in the house. Kuna ile kiti ya baba, and when baba sits on that seat, there is authority. It's like when you walk into the parliament and what do you call this?
The speaker.
No, before the speaker sits and the sitting is officially on, they lay the
mace.
The mace. That is it. And then the session is on. Those are the kind of paps we had. But the problem is, once daddy walked through the front door, the rest of us disappeared like panya. Why do children, and for this case men, have problem relating with their fathers at that age? I would love for us to discuss that next week with your stories so that we can see how to follow this throughout on how and what makes a man. Until next time, it's been real having you. See you. Remember to subscribe. The channel is The Arts in Heart Official on YouTube and The Arts in Heart on Facebook. And my name is Likuyani Eli.
Kazi ya Shamir. Sijawahi pendwa vile unavyonipenda. Yule alinitenda alikuwa na crazy agenda. Sijawahi pendwa vile unavyonipenda. Yule alinitenda alikuwa na crazy agenda. Uko and I know you know. Tukae pamoja hivo hivo. Wasilete shida hizo. Tumetoka mbali toka 00. Haki wewe unanichanganya wewe. Haki wewe unanichanganya wewe. Penzi weni wangu, penzi letu ni letu. I fly high with you.